May the light of this chalice shine in our hearts and help us to create a world where all are valued and respected.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Reverend Amy Petrie Shaw. My pronouns are they, them, and theirs. And as always, I'm speaking to you from land that's the traditional territory of the indigenous Iowa people. Bruce Martin is our pianist today. Barb Martin will be leading the songs, and Louise Alcorn is our celebrant. Lara Halston, our membership coordinator, is here with us. So if you're here for the first time, or if you just want to learn more about First Unitarian, Lyra's going to put an email link in the chat so that you can get in touch with her. We just ask that you keep your mics muted throughout the service. You're welcome to have your video on. At the end of the service, we will be going into breakout rooms. Everyone is welcome to join, and we will have this week's question, which you are welcome to discuss. So welcome, and we're glad you're here. Welcome to a place of respect where all are held with dignity. Welcome to this place of love where all are valued in their diversity. Welcome to this place of faith where all are honored for their journey. Come in and be welcome.
Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. I'm Louise Alcorn. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am a woman, a daughter, a sister. I have nieces and a goddaughter. I have nephews who are young men in the world. Like most women, I was taught to walk in fear through the world, to dress and walk and to not be prey. I hope for the day when we no longer raise our girls as if they were already victims, where we raise boys to see humanity, not targets. No matter who you are or where you've come from, you are welcome here. Whether or not you live in Des Moines or have ever physically been at First Unitarian, whoever you are, we hope that here you find thoughts which challenge you, welcome which invites you into community, and people to accompany you on your journey. Our gathering song this morning is number 168, One More Step. The words will be copied in the chat screen. Please keep your mics muted and simply sing along at home if you would like.
One more step, we will take one more step, till there is peace for us, and everyone will take one more step. One more word, we will say one more word, till every word is heard by everyone. Will take one more word. One more prayer, we will say one more prayer, till every prayer is shared by everyone. We'll say one more prayer. One more song, we will sing one more song, till every song is sung by everyone. We'll sing one more song.
Thank you, Bruce and Barb. Our Time for All Ages story today is called Dar the Dolphin's Dirty Tricks. It's by Margot Fallis. Because today we are talking about rape culture, which is directly related to prank culture. The idea of using other people as objects for your entertainment. And I am going to share my screen.
Dar the Dolphin's Dirty Tricks. Dar the Dolphin lived in the clear blue waters of the Red Sea. He was a very happy and playful dolphin, but he was also very mischievous. Dar loved to play tricks on the other creatures that lived under the sea with him. One day, Anessa the octopus was sorting her yarn. She had 8 different colors of yarn on her 8 different legs, and it had taken a long time to untangle them. Dar snuck into Anessa's cave, swam up right up behind her, and yelled, "Boo!" She was so scared she dropped all the yarn, and in terror she swam to the back of her cave. Dar started to laugh. Anessa peeked and saw what Dar had done, and that the 8 colors of yarn were all mixed up into a tangled mess on the floor. "You'll be sorry for this one day, Dar. Someday you'll be in big trouble, and I won't help you," she warned. Another time, Dar the dolphin swam into an oyster bed. All of the oysters were sleeping. Shh, allowing time for their pearls to grow inside them. Dar snuck in quietly and gently pried open each and every oyster and took the pearls out. He switched them all up and around and put different ones back into the wrong oysters. When he was finished, he swam behind some corals to wait and watch. When Omar Oyster woke up, he checked his precious pearl, and he saw that it wasn't his. Amal Oyster did the same thing. Soon all the others were awake and checking their pearls, only to discover that none of them had their own. Began to get angry and started accusing each other of switching them, because theirs had been bigger and better. Dar couldn't stand it any longer. He started squealing with laughter. The oysters stopped their arguing and looked angrily at Dar. Omar said, "One day, Dar, your dirty tricks are going to get you in big trouble." Dar just laughed harder and harder, then swam away. Once, Dar was swimming along quite merrily, and he was thinking about all the funny tricks he had played on others. He looked down on the seafloor and spotted Habib, the hermit crab, sitting on a large rock reading a book. Dar swam around, searching the sea bottom until he found a piece of fishing line. He bit off some, and then snuck up behind Habib and tied the line around his shell. Then he swam around the rock and went in front of him. "What are you reading?" he asked the old hermit crab. "It's called Moby Dick," Habib responded. "Go away, young dolphin, you're bothering me," he continued. Dar teasingly said, "No, I won't go, and you can't make me." Habib got very angry. "Why, you annoying pest, I'll show you that I can." He moved to chase Dar off. When he jumped down from the rock to go after him, the fishing line pulled tightly and yanked Habib's shell right off his back. Dar laughed hysterically. Habib looked back. "My shell! How will I ever get it back on? I'm too old for this. You are a bad dolphin. One day you are going to get yourself into big trouble, and all of these dirty tricks will make it so none of us will ever help you." Habib was angrier than Dar had ever seen anyone before. He started to laugh again, but stopped. It didn't seem funny anymore. But he still didn't apologize, of course, or even try to help Habib get his shell on. Instead, he just swam away. He did some other dirty tricks that day. He drew a bullseye on Salhil, the starfish's back. He put a clothespin on Mars, the eel's tail, while he was sleeping. He went as far as to put pink dye in Samir, the squid's ink. Everyone under the Red Sea was mad at Dar the dolphin that day. He just kept swimming along, though, thinking about his funny tricks. But he didn't see the net in front of him. He swam right into it. His fins and flippers were caught. Dar began to struggle. The more he wiggled, the more he got tangled. He began to squeal, help me, I'm stuck, I got caught in a fishing net, someone please help me. The oysters looked up from their bed and saw Dar stuck in the net and scoffed. Serves him right, Amar cried aloud. Leave him in there, said Amal. The oysters ignored Dar's cries for help. Anessa the octopus had just untangled her yarn again. She had organized it all in her arms. She heard Dar crying out for help. I'm not coming to help you, Dar, she mumbled to herself. You deserve it. Amar the eel, Suhil the starfish, and Samir the squid all heard the dolphin crying, and they didn't care either. They had all had enough of Dar's dirty tricks. Habib the hermit crab had just gotten his shell back on when he heard Dar crying for help. What's that dirty trick-playing dolphin gotten himself into now? I warned him he'd find trouble, and well, I'm not going to help him. Dar was terrified. He was getting very tired from all the wriggling about. Please help me, someone, please. I promise I'll never do any dirty trick to anyone. Habib thought about it for a while. He swam up to Dar as he was hanging in the net. Do you promise me that your trick-playing days are over? Forever? He asked. I promise, Habib. I promise, Dar assured him. Well, you don't deserve it, but I'll help you, Habib said. He swam around the net and took his sharp claws and snipped, snipped, snipped until Dar was free. Habib and Dar swam down to the bottom of the sea. I'm sorry, Habib. No more dirty tricks, I promise. Thank you for saving me, Dar apologized. Now, Dolphin, you need to go and tell all of the other sea creatures that you're sorry for what you did to them. Then promise that you'll never do another dirty trick on them again. Dar agreed and spent the rest of the day swimming around the Red Sea, visiting the oysters and helping them sort out their pearls. He helped Anessa the octopus with her yarn, then swam off to see Samar the squid, Suhil the starfish, and Amar the eel. He apologized to them all. And one thing everyone knew, that life under the deep blue sea was never going to be quite the same again. The end.
Elaine, I'm going to turn it over to you for a brief spotlight. It's all yours.
Morning, Alan Ann. How's your daughter doing? Are you still in Virginia?
Yeah, good morning, Elaine. Yes, we are in Virginia. My daughter, though, is doing very well, so we plan to leave here in about 2 weeks. But you know, we're going to miss out on next Sunday's food fair event.
Well, have I got a deal for you? One good thing about the pandemic is you don't need to be there in person to get your bids in. You don't have to designate someone to do your shopping for you this year.
Great. How's that going to work?
Well, like in the past, you look over the current offerings list. Let me show you how to find it. Give me a second here. Oh, I don't have screen sharing. Anyway, you go on the website. Oh, now I can. Okay. You know what? I'm not set up. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, so we go to the church website, and these banners appear across the top, and I just missed the food fair one. So if you missed the food fair one, you can either click on that banner, or under Find Community, we find Fabulously Fun Food Fair Fundraiser. And there's the banner again. Okay. Then we see a link to the current offerings list, bidding instructions. And this is similar to what we've had in the past, where it lists all the events and all the items that are up for auction. Look familiar?
It does.
Okay.
What's next?
Well, then you go back up to the top and there's these directions. This year we have to pay with PayPal. So you have to get a PayPal account if you don't have one. I know not everybody's going to want to do that. So you can either find a friend to help you pay for it, or I guess you can email me and send a check. But I really don't want that to happen very much.
Well, then how do we buy our events and bid on the items?
Well, then we go over to the Bidding Owl site, which here's the link right here. And it looks like this. And it's got different categories of items. You can either look at everything and everything. Oh, you know what? I had a search in here. I'm not seeing everything. Let me take this out. Now, so this is tricky this year. With our events, there is a picture. There's one for each seat. And it's supposed to be a bidding site, but you just pay the $10, okay? And then it'll take you through a bunch of steps. If you go to, you can practice this ahead of time without spending any money. Jean McCracken tried this yesterday. Let's see. Here it says practice bidding. These are just, you might call them ghost events that you can practice on. And here it says buy now. So that's how you buy an in-person or virtual event. But the other stuff you'll bid on like usual, and you put your bid in here and then you keep watching. So it'll be up and you can keep watching. So we're gonna start next week at 4 o'clock. We're gonna have a Zoom. And if you have some friends that can meet together safely and help each other, if you know somebody that has trouble technology-wise, you can help them with their gadgets and how to bid, and let her rip. All the early bird folks can get in there, but you can keep bidding through the week.
Okay, we will be ready.
Yes.
Okay, and I look forward to when you get back.
Thanks, Elaine.
See you later.
All right, bye-bye.
Well, thanks, Elaine and Al and Ann. And next week, be ready. These are our offering words for the week. It was near the end of the day at the gates of heaven, and there were just 3 people left. The first one approached St. Peter, who was guarding the gate. And St. Peter said, "What is your religion?" And the man said, "I'm a Catholic." And Peter paged through his big book and he said, "Did you go to church every Sunday and receive the sacrament of communion?" And the guy said, "Oh, yes." St. Peter said, "Come on in." The next person approached and St. Peter said, "What is your religion?" And the man said, "I'm an atheist." St. Peter got out his book and he looked again and he said, "Did you treat people with dignity and love? And have you read Richard Dawkins?" And the man said, "Oh, yes." He said, "Come on in." The third person approached and she told St. Peter, "I'm a UU, what about me?" St. Peter nodded and got out his book and flipped through again and said, "Well, did you bring coffee and a vegetarian hot dish to share? And is that container recyclable?" So that we might continue to share with one another, our morning offering will now be given and received through the link in the chat. 1/2 of our electronic plate goes to the internal social justice working of this community, and 1/2 goes to external programs, our Faith in Action partners, Planned Parenthood, and Central Iowa Immigrant Support Coalition. And Lyra put the link in the chat. Thank you all for everything that you give for the life and the work of this community. I want to do a very brief spotlight right now on the stewardship process, because we've discovered that we've not been as clear as we possibly could have been on one piece of it. The question of rollover keeps coming up, and we want to make sure as many people hear this as is possible. If you made a pledge last year, you put in your pledge card or you signed a card and said waiver, that pledge on our books goes for 1 year, unless you did something very unique. We count that pledge for 1 year, usually from some date in April or March to this April or March. If you are pledging electronically, and Charlie set that up for you, he only sets it up to go from whenever you pledged through the following June. It will stop coming out automatically. He puts a stop date on those. If you set it up with your bank, there may not be a stop date. You may have set it up that it just continues to come out, and that's fine. But in either case, we need a new pledge card so we know what you intend. If you did it with Charlie thinking that it would just keep going, it's going to stop, and you won't have an active pledge happening. Even if you do a card, you have to make sure that the pledge has started again. If you did it yourself, you may keep having money taken out of your account, but we won't know you intended to pledge. The pledge cards aren't just about money, though they do help the money. They help us to know how to shape our budget, what money we can count on. And for that, we need to interact with you every single year, regardless of whether on your end you've set it up so that it just keeps coming out no matter what. You have to tell us that you intend for it to keep coming out. So there's been a lot of confusion because for some of you, your pledge really does roll over. It keeps going because that's how you set it up. But we don't know that. So please fill out a card, drop it off, email it in, send it in. The link is in the chat. Just let us know what you intend. If you need a waiver, there is absolutely no problem with that. Write waiver in your amount, get it in there. We care more about knowing that you're still here and knowing what you want. That's what matters. We want to make sure we get in touch with you. So thank you. That is our brief spotlight on stewardship and rollover. If you have questions, you can ask any member of the stewardship team. You can email me. You can email Liz Bredson. Ask us. You can ask Margaret Schultz. Ask if you have questions. We'll help you out. Because we're here to help one another and we're here to be a part of a community. We're here to be with each other in the good times and in the bad times and in the in-between times. We're here to witness and minister to one another when things go good and when things go terribly. Louise, I believe you had a concern to share this week. If you want to share that.
Thank you, Amy. Yeah, as we head into joys and concerns, I was going to share that I last Sunday after church, I found out that I had lost my beloved and fearless Aunt Julia, who had been fighting cancer for some years. She was a world traveler and never met a stranger. She was my hero.
Thank you. Let's share together now in the chat the names of anyone who could use some special care and attention this week. May the love of our community hold them all. May the light of our community shine on the broken places of the world. May the work of our hands and our hearts support and comfort those who are marginalized and oppressed and at risk. May we never look away when we're needed. May those of you who are grieving be comforted. May those who are tired find rest. May the broken places be healed. May those who are filled with joy and laughter be abundant. Every week we light 3 real or virtual candles, and one is for any joys and sorrows that we've shared here. One is for the names that we've written in the chat. And the last candle is for all of the joys and all of the sorrows which are deeply held, but which remain unspoken here today.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul.
Our first reading today is a blog post called Still Not Asking for It by blogger Lyora K. Women fear rape. In fact, women fear rape so much that on average, most women take at least 25 steps a day to prevent themselves from being raped. We live in a world of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. The cure in this case, of course, is living with the trauma and repercussions of rape for the rest of our lives. Many of us will be raped. Most of us who are raped will be raped by someone known to us and trusted by us. Boyfriends, bosses, friends, friends of friends, and yes, popular, well-adjusted athletes with promising futures. These rapes happen at work, at home, at parties, in classrooms, and any other location you can probably conceivably think of. Even with these facts, we are still taught to believe that we have a higher chance of being raped in a dark alley by a strange man who we don't know than by people who we believe we can trust. This pervasive myth is so entrenched in the way that society approaches the subject of rape that it immediately directs the focus away from the rape itself, the violence and psychology of control, etc., and onto an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. We do not want to be this victim. We are so horrified and so frightened that we would rather place the blame on her. We want to believe that we can will ourselves not to be raped, that we can outthink the statistics, that by some magical combination of never doing what we are not supposed to do and knowing what we are supposed to do, we cannot end up like her. That because we are so careful and know all the rules, this can't happen to us. We are desperate to other. We do not want to believe that this will happen to 1 in 4 of us, regardless of the actions we take. We want to believe that we are above the statistics. There are, of course, other factors: patriarchy, rape culture, slut shaming, pure ignorance, disbelief, denial, puritanical culture, and sexism all play a major role in how we as a culture handle ourselves in the aftermath of rape. But this fear does too. We see it on social media, television, and articles. Nothing enrages me more than women saying that other women asked to be raped. I personally find it impossible to ignore, and I know others do too. We torture ourselves by reading it and try to make a difference by responding to it, writing articles, making video responses, and sharing. Though with fear instilled in us by an omnipresent myth that is pushed on us day in and day out is the cause, what is the cure? We as individuals can only do so much by ourselves, but even those small things add up to big results. Educate your friends and family on the truth about rape. Do not accept excuses like boys will be boys or an ounce of prevention. Work to promote safety in your community. Volunteer at a rape crisis center. Listen to a friend who confides in you. Reach out to news sources that promote rape culture and let them know what you think. Promote yes means yes instead of mutely accepting she was asking for it. We all have the power to be catalysts for change. We have the tools. We have the know-how. We can do it.
Thank you, Louise. Our words for meditation today are from Survivor Psalm, a poem by Dr. Fred Ochberg. This is handed out at survivor clinics. I have been victimized. I was in a fight that was not a fair fight. I did not ask for the fight. I lost. There is no shame in losing such fights. I have reached the stage of survivor and am no longer a slave of victim status. I look back with sadness rather than hate. I look forward with hope rather than despair. I may never forget, but I need not constantly remember. I was a victim. I am a survivor. Please join me in 1 minute of silent meditation or prayer.
We walk in love, united in purpose. We join our hands and lift up one voice. We speak the truth with strength and compassion, resounding with hope, with courage and joy.
From writer Doris Lessing comes this reading from the Golden Notebook. Ideally, what should be said to every child repeatedly throughout his or her school life is something like this. You are in the process of being indoctrinated. We have not yet evolved a system of education that is not a system of indoctrination. We are sorry, but it is the best we can do. What you are being taught here is an amalgam of current prejudice and the choices of this particular culture. The slightest look at history will show how impermanent these might be. You are being taught by people who have been able to accommodate themselves to a regime of thought laid down by their predecessors. It is a self-perpetuating system. Those of you who are more robust and individual than others will be encouraged to leave and find ways of educating yourself, educating your own judgments. Those that stay must remember always and all the time that they are being molded and patterned to fit into the narrow and particular needs of this particular society. Our centering song today is number 300, With Heart and Mind. The words will be in the chat screen. Please keep your mics muted and sing along at home if you would like.
Thank you, Barb and Bruce. A few years ago, the Me Too movement became visible everywhere. And suddenly in 2019, we were hearing the phrase, Me Too, Me Too, Me Too. It referred to people who had been the victims of some type of sexual assault. Me Too has actually been around since 2006, that phrase, that hashtag, but it didn't really get the publicity until just a year or two ago. Back a few years, in 2013, the upswell began that led to Me Too taking center stage. In January of 2013, there was a picture of a female rape protester, and it showed up everywhere for a few weeks. The picture was a young woman wearing no shirt and a low-cut skirt, and the words, "Still not asking for it," were written in black across her entire torso. and she was standing with her fist up like this. And a male viewer commented on that picture on one site, but then again, it's kind of like putting a meat suit on and telling a shark not to eat you. And I want you to think about that for a minute. It's kind of like putting a meat suit on and telling a shark not to eat you. And it wasn't women who responded first. It was the male website owner who responded brilliantly, and he posted his reply. We men are not sharks. We're not rabid animals living off of pure instinct. We're capable of rational thinking and understanding. Just because someone is cooking food, it doesn't mean you are entitled to eat it. Just because a banker is counting money doesn't mean you are being given free money. Just because a person is naked doesn't mean you're entitled to have sex with them. You are not entitled to someone else's body just because it's exposed. What is so difficult about this concept? What is so difficult about it is that we live in what has been called a rape culture. Culture is a nice word. It has all kinds of connotations of being a patron of the arts or a feel of sophistication. If we are cultured, we have risen above the most basic levels of civilization. But culture's more than that. Culture depends on the capacity for learning and transmitting knowledge to succeeding generations. It's the customary beliefs, the social forms, the material traits of a racial, religious, or social group. Our culture is our behaviors for sharing knowledge with the succeeding generations. That's our second reading, which talked about how schools transmit that knowledge. Our culture is our customary beliefs, the features of our everyday existence. Culture is the fire in which we burn. It's the air we breathe. It's the water we swim in. It's all around us to the point where we don't see it. Rape culture is a concept used to describe a culture in which rape and sexual violence are common and in which prevalent attitudes, norms, practices, and media normalize, excuse, tolerate, or even condone rape. Before 1974, we didn't talk about rape here in the United States. In 74, the term rape culture was used in a book called Rape, the first source book for women. It was one of the first books to ever include survivor accounts. In the book, the New York radical feminists stated that our ultimate goal is to eliminate rape, and that goal cannot be achieved without a revolutionary transformation of our society. Well, things have changed since 1974, and not always in ways that we could control or easily understand. We've talked about rape as a society as an act of power and oppression and domination and control rather than sex, and that is still very true. But we seem to be barraged as a society with stories of teachers sleeping with middle and high school students. 50 Shades of Grey, a book about a sexually powered dysfunctional relationship, made the New York Times bestseller list and is considered romantic. While I do not believe that there is anything innately wrong with a agreed on power disparate relationship, the fact that it portrays sexual assault as romantic without correctly centering that in that fetish community is a little worrisome. In August of 2012, a drunk and unconscious 16-year-old West Virginia girl was raped at a party by two teenage boys. Both were Steubenville, Ohio football players. The boys not only didn't try to hide what they were doing, but they were taking pictures and texting them. Their arrests shocked them, shocked their friends. Their convictions rocked this community, tore the town into fighting factions. And CNN's coverage mentioned that these boys' lives were ruined. Boys' lives were ruined. Laurie Anderson wrote a book called Speak, which tells the story of a fictional teenage rape victim. Ms. Anderson is afraid that young boys do not understand what rape actually is. On her website, there's a discussion board where real teachers talk about students' reactions to the book. And one middle school teacher from California posted at length because she taught gifted 8th graders, and she was shocked and dismayed and horrified because those gifted 8th graders couldn't understand why the Steubenville situation was rape. They got the idea that if the victim said no, it was rape. But at Steubenville, nobody said no. So how could it be rape? When this California 8th grade teacher explained to these boys that rape wasn't just being forced to have sex after saying no, rape was what happened if the other person did not clearly say yes. These kids, these children, these 8th graders were horrified. 2 of the boys came up to her after class to talk about specific events in which they themselves had sexually assaulted someone. We've created a fiction of stranger danger. The rapist is some faceless guy who's going to leap out at you in a dark alley like a leopard off of a branch. The U.S. has otherized and monsterized rapists in a way that just isn't true. According to RAINN, the nation's largest anti-sexual violence organization, currently in 2021, 1 in 6 women, 1 in 33 men will experience an attempted or completed rape. Right now, right in this moment, there are 82 of us on this Zoom. You do the math. Most of their attackers will be someone they knew. And in some cases, the rapist will not even realize that what he did was rape. Now, I am using male pronouns because statistically, men are responsible for the vast majority of sexual violence in America. In a 2010 National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Survey, 90% of perpetrators of sexual violence against women are men. And when men are victims, 93% reported that their abuser was a man. It is absolutely true that women also assault men, but even when victims of all genders are considered, men perpetuate 78% of reported assaults. In case you're wondering, the National Coalition of Anti-Violence Projects says that around half of transgender people and bisexual women will experience sexual violence and assault during their lifetime. So if you are trans, if you are bisexual, the math goes up to 1 in 2. Rape culture. Professor Stephen Landsberg is an economic instructor at the University of Rochester. He was once elected Professor of the Year by the students. And in 2013, he wrote a public blog on March 20th. He said, let's suppose that you or I or someone we love or someone we care about from afar is raped while unconscious in a way that causes no direct physical harm, no injury, no pregnancy, no disease. Despite the lack of physical damage, we're shocked, appalled, and horrified at the thought of being treated in this way and suffered deep trauma as a result. Ought the law to discourage such acts of rape? Should they be illegal? And a few paragraphs later, he goes on to say, as long as I am safely unconscious and therefore shielded from the cost of the assault, why shouldn't the rest of the world, or more specifically my attackers, be allowed to reap the benefits? This is a teacher. You want to know how many students, though, complained about this blog? Not 30 or 60 or 100 or all of them. Two students complained because they felt this was not right. Two. It's rape culture. When Stanford rapist Brock Turner was on trial for raping an unconscious woman behind a dumpster, this was just a few years ago, his father complained because he should not have to go to prison for, and I quote, 20 minutes of action. The judge sentenced Brock to 6 months of jail for committing 3 felonies. He was released after 90 days because the judge was afraid, and I quote, prison would have a severe impact on him. The 2 young men who saved his victim were crying so hard while trying to talk to the police that the officers had to console them. But we're worried about Brock. How can the worth and dignity of an individual, one of our principles, be upheld if they're a commodity which exists so others can reap the benefits? Our media doesn't help much. We've swung from the sexist and misogynistic commercials of the 50s, which showed women being spanked by their husbands for giving them stale coffee, and another wife in awe of a ketchup bottle, which could even be opened by a woman, to modern day portrayals of men as endearing, stupid, lazy, and animalistic. Most of us watch cable these days, but I want you to think about how commercials on regular TV portray men. I remember one from a couple years ago where a bumbling husband overhears his wife talking about her diet, including apple turnovers and Boston cream pie and chocolate strawberry. We watch him sneak behind her back, rooting in the fridge for all the good things she's presumably kept him from gorging on, blindly ignoring the Yoplait yogurt containers that she's actually referring to, because he's obviously too stupid and too greedy to stop. Pizza and cleaning supply commercials where husbands and their friends destroy a room and they're surprised when their wife or girlfriend's upset. There's a Tostitos spot where businessmen were stuffing snacks in their faces while a female member of the team worked, and then high-five one another when she finished the project, yelling, "Go team." Lynx and Axe body spray. According to those, men are almost incapable of functioning independently. There have been fast food commercials where men ram one another at a drive-through window because they're unable to wait for the food. Men unable to share, men taking from one another, men taking their girlfriends' food or drink because they just can't control themselves. We see that every day. Our children see that every day. Commercials aren't what we base our life off of, but they charm us, they amuse us, they make us laugh. They're pervasive. The web makes it worse, and part of the way it makes it worse is prank culture. Young men are told it's hysterical to play pranks on their friends. This is a milder version of rape culture. Use someone else's body for your amusement. They film themselves doing this, pranks like feeding someone a ghost chili on their pizza and then laughing while the person screams and vomits. locking a bike lock around a groom's neck and running away with the keys 10 minutes before his wedding, forcing him to wear a tuxedo over a large U-shaped bike lock. Drawing penises on the face of a young man who's just gotten his first job trading with a professional company, forcing him to either go to work with black marks on his face or use a caustic solution to get them off going to work with a burned face at his first adult job. I saw one where they used a boat horn and launched someone directly into a wall, laughing hysterically the whole time. Pranks. These aren't done to your enemies, by the way, they're done to your friends. Rape culture. Taking someone else's body and using it to reap the benefits. Your amusement, your power status. Others are there to provide us with something. They owe us amusement and sex and validation and entertainment. Among those under 30, women suffer most from the sexual expectations. Men suffer by being beaten and battered and demeaned by vicious assaults masquerading as fun. As you use, how do we stop it? How do we dismantle a culture where others exist for enjoyment rather than relationship? We start at the grassroots level, doing what we do best. We teach, we talk, we live our values, we call for transformation. Talk to your children. Talk to your grandchildren and your friends. When you talk about things like Steubenville, make sure there is understanding of what rape is and isn't. Ask if they agree. And if they don't understand that only yes is yes, and only people get to determine what happens to their body, talk some more. Ask kids and grandkids about bullying, what they think is funny, what they think is dismaying. Talk some more. When products and services are sold to you using objectionable commercials that violate your beliefs, don't boycott the product. Take 5 minutes and send an email to the company. Let them know, I didn't appreciate that. I'm buying in spite of the commercial, not because of, and talk some more. We can't dismantle rape culture quietly or by teaching women not to be raped. But we can destroy this rape culture. We can talk to our children and our grandchildren. We can talk with friends and coworkers. We can create a culture where treating people as things isn't acceptable. We can make it clear that men are not bumbling, mindless animals, too aggressive or brainless to be taught to control themselves. That's not true. Simply live your values out loud. Share them as you journey. Refuse to join in a culture where doing otherwise is accepted. When enough of us stand together in fighting for dignity and worth and compassion and understanding, we become the majority. And we change the world. Amen.
We extinguish this chalice and know that the warmth of this community and the light of our sharing will be with us until we meet again. Our final song today is number 158, Praise the Source of Faith and Learning, verses 1, 2, and 4. The words will be in the chat screen. Please keep your mics muted and sing along at home if you would like.
where purpose for creation and the goals of life are found. Raise your mind to probe the heavens, raise for strength to breathe the air. Praise for all that beauty leavens, praise for silence, music, prayer. Praise for justice and compassion, and for strikers, neighbors, friends. Praise for hearts and lips to fashion, praise for love that never ends.
We go out today knowing that we can make a difference. We can challenge ignorance and oppression, provide hope when there is only hopelessness, and eventually we can change the world. Peace, ashe, and may it be so. Today, if you go into a breakout room, our question is, how has rape culture impacted your life if you feel it has impacted your life? Please remember that we will be cutting off the breakout rooms promptly at 11:30 because we have a budget meeting today at 11:30. The link for that meeting is on the website, but I am putting it in the chat right now. Oh, wrong one. Hold on. I am putting it in the chat right now. Please consider going to that so you can ask any questions about the proposed budget for next year. I'll give you just a second to cut and paste and copy that link if you need it. Otherwise, it is on the website.